fray. And traditional practice in this office is that legal counsel, except for maybe litigating some fiscal note issues, which have become more predominant, not a very stressful job. But when I interviewed with Mr. Swyk and understood where he was headed, I was excited because I have spent my career as a prosecutor seeing that the public's interests are protected, whether it was their own personal public safety or the financial reliability of their tax money. For example, in the city of Springfield, a few years ago, we discovered there was $1.2 million that had been siphoned off by a clerk. And as Tom says, you know, that's after the fact, after the audit teams come in. And what this is designed to do is to allow us to move quickly. And so I'm very excited, I'm very pleased to be part of the team, and to work for a man who truly is concerned to make sure that government does work for the people of the state of Missouri, especially in these times when the economy's bad, people are unemployed, and they want to make sure their tax dollars are being spent efficiently and wisely. And I think that these procedures that the auditor has adopted are going to see that and should reassure the people that we intend to help be good stewards of their money and to make sure that other people in state government and political subdivisions are good stewards of their money. As a side note, I will tell you that these protocols that we developed, and as Tom indicated, it's taken us a while to do this, but we want to do it right, we want to be thorough. We're not going to fly by the seat of our pants. As a trial attorney, I never ever flew by the seat of my pants. Defense attorneys can, but prosecutors can't. You don't know. Prosecutors got to be prepared for any eventuality. But in any event, these protocols, the rapid response protocol, I will tell you, is borrowed heavily from the state of North Carolina. They have state statutes, and their auditor has been involved in years. In fact, I spoke to their former chief investigator for the state of North Carolina, who helped give me some ideas on some of the criteria that we should look at and how we should approach it. And so if you look at North Carolina statute on investigations, you'll see that we borrowed heavily from that to develop our rapid response team. So we want to make sure that we're using legally sound guidelines and principles. And the guy who used to be the chief investigator for North Carolina, by the way, worked for the Federal Bureau of Investigation before he did that job. I have great respect for him. He's now in the private sector, by the way, working on anti-fraud efforts to make sure that government is doing what it's supposed to be doing. In terms of the audit follow-up protocol, I looked at different states. Ours is a hybrid of things. In Minnesota, the auditor does a follow-up by sending out a letter at the end of the year to everybody that was audited saying, we made these findings, have you complied? And that's nice. That was one of the more aggressive stands. So our stand is going to be more aggressive than I could find in any state, in state auditor's office in the United States. We do borrow from the state of Washington, though, because you see there's some reliability, accountability measures built into this, because first our audit team is going to be in there doing the audit. They're going to reach some findings, and the only findings that we're going to be monitoring are findings that would require the immediate attention of whoever's in charge of that agency or political subdivision. Then we're going to work out, as Tom said, a timeline for them to be in compliance, and then at some point I will go in as we approach that deadline and ask them, have you complied? And if need be, we will use the full powers of the auditor's office. We have the power to subpoena documents, records, and people to make sure that they're in compliance. We can use those same powers, by the way, when we're doing the rapid response, doing investigation. We can drop a subpoena on them to request that they hold all documents, records, including email, phone logs, so that they destroy documents. You all are aware that a lot of people get in trouble, not necessarily because they did something wrong initially, but because they were stupid enough to destroy evidence after a legal proceeding was initiated and subpoenas were served. And so that's what we want to do, is lock people in to a record. But as you look at the follow-up mechanism in Washington, another accountability factor that the state of Washington has that we like and that you see in our protocol if you ask Gary for it, is at the end of the year we're going to publish the status of how people have complied with the significant findings. And there are 4 different categories. Of course, the most favorable one is that they've implemented it, or the second one will be they're in the process of implementing it, and of course the worst level will be they're not doing anything. And what the state of Washington does every year is they publish a list. The auditor publishes a list showing what percentage has been complied with, who hasn't complied with it, or who's in the process of complying, and you will start seeing that. So we're going to have accountability built in for the people of the state now to a degree that it's never seen, and the extent that not only will we be doing the audit, but this time there's actually going to be follow-up, that we won't be waiting until the next audit's done 2, 3, 4, or 10 years later. There's going to be immediate follow-up within those timelines. They've been warned there will be follow-up. And then they know the ultimate accountability is, other than us coming back to check on them and letting the public know they're not doing their job, every year the public will have a chance to go look on our website and see what their status is in compliance. So those, I think, are great accountability measures. And I just tell you, I'm excited to be here. I hope you can see that. And I can assure you that the last month has not been boring.